Nelson Mandela, Long Walk to Freedom. CBSE Class 10 English, Chapter 2 Notes. Chapter Sketch. This chapter has been taken from Nelson Mandela's book of the same name, Nelson Mandela, A Long Walk to the Freedom. It provides us a glimpse of the early life of Nelson Mandela, his education, 30 years in prison, and the pains he had suffered in his young age. The chapter recounts his fight for the freedom for his own people who were tortured by whites. In the chapter, Mandela gives two contradictory pictures of his own country. Number one, in which the blacks were tortured and suffered quietly, and number two, the blacks will be free to live a life of their own. About the characters. Nelson Mandela, first black president of South Africa who fought for the equal rights of the black. He suffered a lot of pain for the freedom. Zenani, daughter of Nelson Mandela, who accompanied Mandela in his inauguration day. She was very much close to him. Thabo Mbeki, first deputy president of South Africa, who was very close to Mandela. Mr. de Klerk, second deputy president of South Africa. Overview. The inauguration. It was 10th May, the day of oath, with a bright and shiny sun. Nelson Mandela was supposed to take oath as the first black president of South Africa. A large number of leaders, all from around the world, had gathered there to witness the swearing in ceremony of Nelson Mandela as the first black president. The inauguration ceremony took place in the big open building of Pretoria, where the first democratic non-racial government was to be installed. The swearing-in ceremony of Nelson Mandela. Nelson Mandela was accompanied by his daughter Zenani. Mr. de Klerk was the first person who took oath as second deputy president, followed by Mr. Thabo Mbeki, who swore as the first deputy president of South Africa. Nelson Mandela was the last person who swore as the first black president of South Africa. He pledged to obey and uphold the constitution and to devote himself to the well-being of the people. He also promised to make the nation free from poverty, deprivation, suffering, and all sorts of discrimination. Display of the military power by South African jets. When Mandela had taken oath, South African jets displayed the military power. It also showed the loyalty of military to democracy. The highest military generals saluted him. He recounted that they would have arrested him many years before. It was followed by the playing of two national anthems. The whites sang Kosi Sikelel, the old song, and the blacks sang Die Stem, the new song, which marked the end of the ceremony. Apartheid and South Africa. Nelson Mandela reminisces about days gone by which will soon be the part of the history where the whites had formed a system of racial dominance against the blacks. It was the basis of the harsh societies which is now overturned. He says that the policy of apartheid created a deep and lasting wound on his country and its people. Now, it is the system that recognizes the rights and freedom of all people. Regret of Mandela and remembrance of freedom fighters. On the auspicious day, Mandela regretted the loss of thousands of people and remembered their sacrifices for the freedom from discrimination. He thought of himself as the sum of all those African patriots who sacrificed their lives before him. He was pained that he couldn't thank them. He recalled great freedom fighters like Oliver Tambo, Walter Sisulu, Steve Luthuli, Yusuf Dadu, etc., who were the men of uncommon courage, wisdom, and generosity. He said that the country is rich in minerals, but its greatest wealth is its people. Goodness and duties of a man. The author says that being white or black is not the token of your goodness or superiority. No one is born hating other. People should love one another, which comes without force as it is natural. It is man's essential goodness. A man has to perform duties to his family, community, and country which he didn't see in his country before he pushed himself to fight for the blacks. A black man was punished if he tried to live like a human being and forced to live apart from his own people. So he was not allowed to perform his duties to his family. Meaning of freedom by Mandela. As a kid, Mandela had different meanings for being free, as he wanted to run in the fields and wanted to stay out at night. As he grew older, he wanted the freedom of livelihood for himself and his family. But soon he realized that such freedom was only an illusion. He realized that his brothers and sisters who looked like him were not free. So he joined African National Congress ANC. His hunger for freedom became great for the freedom of his people. He desired that everyone should be given the right to live his life with dignity and respect. He wanted oppressor and oppressed to be liberated, as no one is free if one is taking someone else's freedom. Only such feelings can bring true freedom for everyone. Chapter highlights. 10th of May was the day of freedom for South Africa, and there was a huge gathering of international leaders and dignitaries. Inauguration ceremony or swearing in ceremony was being held in Union Building in Pretoria, and first non-racial government took the charge. Nelson Mandela gave speech on the victory for justice, peace and human dignity. Mandela pledged to liberate his people from poverty, suffering, and discrimination. A colorful show by jets and helicopters to show military's loyalty took place. Singing of two national anthems was done, the old Kosi Sikelel by whites and the new D Stem by the blacks. A new system that recognized the rights and freedom of all people was formed. Mandela remembered and thanked the people who sacrificed their lives for freedom. Salutation to some great freedom fighters: Oliver Tambo, Walter Sisulu, Chief Luthuli, Yusuf Dadu, and others. Mandela said in speech that a country is rich because of its people and not because of the minerals. Courage is not the absence of fear, but the victory over it. People should love others and not hate them due to color or religion. Love comes naturally, not by force, which is the natural goodness. He also stated that a man should try to make a balance between his duties, the duty to his family, and duty to his community and country. A black person was treated badly and not allowed to perform his duties. According to Mandela, freedom has many aspects, like for a kid it is to run and play, for an adult it is to fulfill the needs of his own and his family. Real freedom means equal rights for everyone. Nelson Mandela joined the African National Congress ANC. He desired people to live with dignity and respect. He wanted the oppressor and the oppressed to be liberated. Patience and perseverance guided by discipline and system yield the desired result.